Give us a stick, Princess Kenny. You don't want to go down like this, bruh. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Hi, and welcome to Seriously Pointless Conversations About Culture, your Seriously Pointless podcast about all your nerdy and geek things across the snow-capped mountains of Colorado, James.
Might say it's about a sleepy mountain town.
That's right. That just wants to have a normal time, but it has a lot of really weird people living in it.
It does.
That's right. Friends and family, we are talking about South Park and the Stick of Truth, the wonderful video game from Obsidian, Ubisoft, and South Park Digital Games Studios. That's what we're going to be talking about today. James, have you ever played this, actually?
I have played through this one, yes.
Okay, so that's kind of...
I got it when it first came out, because I just had to.
I mean, it's a gorgeous game for the simple fact of just how simple it is and how much fun it is and how absurdly raunchy it is.
Yes. Gameplay mechanics wise, it's not a gem.
No.
It's fun, but it's not a gem. It's more because it's voice acted totally by the South Park cast.
Yep.
It has a astounding number of references.
Yep.
And like David said, it has some it's certainly raunchy at some
off the wall bad taste type things, but they're great. So anyway, so before we get into it, I know we've had a little bit of time before I've been able to talk to you for a while. So what have you been up to, man?
Oh, the usual.
working.
More working. Dying on Binding of Isaac Repentance.
There you go.
I am still struggling with it.
That's okay.
Playing through Monster Hunter Rise.
Soon, James, you will have world-class world-breaking records soon. That's your goal, right?
Not just the record at which I can die. But soon I might get some of those hard mode completion marks and it'll be good.
I kind of started watching somebody play it the other night because I was a little bored and it looks really fun. It started to scratch the itch a little bit and I was like, man, how do I get to Jackie to tell her, hey, can I buy this? Or do I just buy it and then ask for forgiveness afterwards?
Well, considering she listens to this podcast,
sometimes, yes,
I may not answer that question, but it is easier to ask.
You don't want to be the little demon on my shoulder.
I don't want to be complicit. No.
That's a good question. So that's what's on my table a little bit. I kind of wanted to figure out if I want to play it or not anytime soon, but.
Because as far as I can tell, they have not announced a release date for consoles, like maybe September or something. Yeah.
Which I might break down and end up buying it for the PC because I haven't bought anything recently in the last, I bought those two Mario games in the last, or the Mario 3D Worlds, and then I also bought the Legend of Zelda Hyrule Warriors last month. So this month I haven't really bought anything yet. Yeah. So that might be my $30 purchase for video games for this month.
Or actually, here's something we haven't talked about yet. There's an anime I've been watching that is kind of enjoyable. It's a nice de-stressing kind of show. It's not a complicated plot. It's just funny and relaxing.
Wait, what is it?
It's called Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle.
I have been watching. I've seen you put it on there, and I'm like, little problem. Like, this has to be Kelly. And no, it's not.
It's both of us together. Actually,
okay, that's acceptable.
It's a pretty simple plot. The Demon King has captured a princess, and she is stuck in the Demon Castle and just wants to sleep.
Hey.
So she breaks out of her cell and, kills some sheep demons to make herself some cloth to make a bed sheet with.
That's actually really funny, actually sounding.
And then the next episode might be that she suddenly decides she needs a sleeping potion or a water bed or something else.
Mm. Kind of sounds like an elevated Princess and the Pea kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not going to win any Emmys, but it's cute. And after a hard day at work, sometimes that's just what you need.
I completely agree. I've done it several times coming home from off of a day shift. And Jackie's like, "Do you want to watch it?" And I'm like, "Yes, something I don't have to think about." And it's usually like some kind of Marvel movie or something like that. Yeah,
Or if you want a real post-work indulgence, you should watch The Helpful Fox Senko-san, which is almost disturbing, actually.
Maybe I will. I will. It's like I said, there's so many things. If you have it on your queue or your history, I can pop it on there. But yeah, I'm actually trying to. What have I been playing? I was actually playing a little Halo. I told you I got the Xbox Game Pass a while back, and that's what I've been playing. I downloaded the Master Chief Collection. I have a confession to make, and I know I don't know if you've ever done it or not, but I have never played through all the Halo like main titles, so 1 through 4, I think.
No, I was just the kid who played the multiplayer, like at the Data Center,
and we died a lot.
LAN parties, yeah, we did die a lot.
We were like cannon fodder pretty much.
What's the name of that purple tank thing, though?
Talking about the Scorpion tank?
No,
not Scorpion.
The one that's like the little...
The Covenant. It's the Covenant tank, but I cannot remember what it's called.
It's not like a tank. It's like a land speeder thing.
Oh, there are... it's basically just like the equivalent of the Warthog that they have on there. That's
it's the Covenant version.
Yeah, and it floats and it shoots little lasers and it's like a little aircraft.
I got really good at running people over.
I know you did. I remember there were several times we'd be doing like LAN parties and I hear a oh, and then you'd like die and I hear you laugh in the background and I'm like, you mother. And it's all because I wasn't like looking, and I'm like somehow you like wiggled your way up into the rocks. just run over somebody. I'm like, I'm in the rocks. Like, how did you get over? And you're like, I will come after you no matter what, and this is the only way I can kill you. And
I'm like, take you out, or you'll snipe me off the things.
I was like, Jesus, man. I was like, that was great, but yeah, that's what I've been doing because I haven't had time to do anything else between the kids and. Jackie and the kid and just work. That's how been my life for the last few days, trying to power through that. But yeah, talking about like kind of a little bit old school games, South Park, in the Stick of Truth, kind of holds a special place in my heart.
It does. It's a really cool game.
So kind of like we were saying, it has that RPG element, and it's very much like a hex based system whenever you play and things like that. But it actually had, from what I've gathered, as much as we enjoy it, it had a lot of like developmental issues from what I've gathered.
Yes.
So I don't know if you how much you've read about it, but originally so Trey Parker and Matt Stone are obviously the creators of South Park, and they had several other games prior to this. They had. The original South Park game for the 64, which was kind of a big flop, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they had some serious issues because they had lost creative control of a lot of those games.
Yeah.
They got developed by third parties, and
they kind of just really kind of like went downhill fast. The finished
result just wasn't really South Park.
It was either low tier, like low critical reception, or like middling tier where it's like, this is a game.
Yeah. Which is one thing that makes this one so amazing is like the entire like South Park town is lovingly recreated down to like the tiniest details.
And so that's the biggest change whenever they started to develop this game. It's like you were saying, is they had complete creative control over it, and it was so much so that I believe it was I don't know if it was Matt Stone or Trey Parker, but one or the other. When they wrote the script out for this, I don't think I had this on there, but they wrote something like 500 pages. For just dialogue for this game.
I totally believe it.
That's the kind of people that they are. They were just like, oh my god, we can actually do something with this, and they're like blah, 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 verbal diarrhea essentially. And so for the equivalent of that is essentially like a whole season of South Park dialogue wise, or like I think it was like something like 7 or 5. It was like 5 South Park movies that they made. So so that's a lot. That's a lot of dialogue that they put in. So luckily, the studio that was working on it at the time, Obsidian, was like, "Hey, like we're more than happy to help you guys with this, but you're gonna have to cut back on this. Like, there's no way we're gonna be able to like make this much of a video game. This is gonna be like an 80-hour video game if you do this." And I'm sure Trey Parker messing around like, what's wrong with that kind of thing, And they're like, well. Don't be hasty.
This is like a joke game. People aren't going to play it for 80 hours.
Yeah, and then
Final Fantasy.
well, they probably didn't think it was going to be as big as it was, but so they kind of cut back a few things and they kind of started to develop it. But unfortunately, this, like you were saying, this game kind of went through a little bit of development hell, from what I've gathered.
Yeah, because I remember it was supposed to come out like way sooner, like
2015, 14. I can't remember.
I think 14 is when it released, and it was supposed to come out like in 2013 or something.
Yeah, let me look real quick. So it was okay. Yeah, it was scheduled to come out in 2013, and actually didn't come out until 2017. Yeah,
2014, right?
No, yeah, 2014. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I think 2017 is Fractured Butthole. I think.
Yeah, so 2009 to 2014 was a 5-year cycle, is what they had. So that's incredibly long for this kind of game.
Especially for like, it's mostly cartoon animated. It's not like 3D.
Yeah.
It's not like an intense world.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially
it's a huge development cycle.
They essentially, from what I've gathered,
a simple game.
Yeah, it's a simple game. They essentially what I found out was they used a lot of the same graphics engines and a lot of the same mechanics that they used to build the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But they threw it into a little bit of an I don't know if it wasn't an Unreal Engine, but they threw it into an engine to kind of help, moderate it a little bit and help, have it moving and things like that. So it really wasn't a huge stretch. The biggest stretch what they came in with was after they started to develop it, they started to get censored by Ubisoft, and not Ubisoft, by Obsidian, but like, hey, we can't make this because like, as everybody knows, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, they like to stretch the bounds of what's tasteful.
They do what they want, generally speaking.
Yep, and they've been at this point. They'd been around since '93.
They even committed like the ultimate faux pas on a comedy show, which was depicting the Prophet Muhammad.
Can't do that,
They did it.
I'm going to say this right now. If
the Super Best Friends episode, which to this day is actually very hard to get a copy of.
It really is. Like
it's been aired, but it's been censored to hell.
Absolutely, which I think was ridiculous. I think, my opinion is if they can have a pilot where Jesus fights Frosty the Snowman and cuts his head off with a halo, I'm just saying.
Yes.
I'm just saying, fair is fair. Everyone needs to go out and have a little.
Make fun of everybody else.
Make fun of everybody else. You got to be able to poke fun a little bit, in my opinion. So, but anyways, so like as they go through this, they kind of started getting censored a little bit, and they're like, "Well, this is BS." And from what I also gathered, is apparently Obsidian actually filed for bankruptcy. That's what had happened.
Yeah. And
they had to take them to court, from what I remember, to try to get the game finished.
Yeah, to get the rights to the game so they could finish it.
Yeah, and I was just like, that's essentially the main reason why it got pushed back so many times. It probably would have been out in a couple of years, honestly.
I would think so, and this is a story we've talked about a lot before, where especially when you're dealing with these kind of games that are based on an already established IP.
Yeah.
Is that just keeping control of it and making it your baby is hard.
It's very hard.
Like we've talked about this before for Psychonauts.
Yeah.
And talking about a sequel, and I think there's at least one more game we've talked about where the same thing happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, even just like the last episode we did with the Super Mario RPG, trying to have Squaresoft is like had a tight grip over the distribution rights of that game, hardcore. So,
and it's been interesting as we've done this podcast to realize how many of these games that we all are like, why don't they just re-release this? They could make $1 million. It's because 3 different studios own the rights to it, and they can't agree.
It's tangled up in this legal mumbo jumbo that it's literally some tiny little paragraph in a contract somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
That's nope, you can't distribute this unless we say it. You can, and if you do, we get half the profits. And whoever the big company who owns the IP is I'm not willing to give up that.
Well, it's why do you think the Donkey Kong games just reappeared all of a sudden? It's because Rare got bought out finally.
Yep. Which I'm okay with,
Donkey Kong World 1 through 3 is on the Switch.
Thank God. I actually started playing. That's another one I started playing. I'll admit that. So I actually started playing Donkey Kong World 2. I think that's what it was.
2's good, but 3's the best.
It is. I just like playing it because I like that kind of thing. But anyways, I'm really hoping they start doing a really random side note here. I kind of hope they throw a 64 emulator on the Switch. That would be really fun to play.
That would be really awesome.
Problem is, I don't know if they would want to. I don't know if they'd be willing to.
And I don't know how much work is involved in it or not. I know the Super Mario 3D All-Stars had 64 games, so they've clearly already written an emulator. because that game is blatantly just ripped off the ROM.
It's ripped off. And the thing is,
which is fine because that's exactly what it said it was going to be on the 10.
Yeah,
but
whether or not they do that or not would be interesting because I would love to play some Star Fox 64 or because I remember that
Star
game
Fox
fondly.
64 was. We should do an episode about that.
It was cherished. It was cherished to say the least. But anyways, so getting back into the thing, so obviously over time they're able to wrest control back from Obsidian, and they were able to get them to try to finish the game over time. But this is with significant delays, and eventually Ubisoft is able to publish the game in 2000 and I believe we said it was 14.
If I remember right, this
2013.
is
I apologize.
This is one of the first like Ubisoft exclusive games for their PC Ubisoft store. Because I remember for this game, I was really upset that I couldn't just use my Steam account. I had to download the Ubisoft launcher.
Oh, sweet Jesus! Don't get me started with them.
There was a bunch of Ubisoft DLC and stuff,
BS
packed in with it, and
I'm sure it was just Trey Parker, Mastonian saying, finally, like, we don't care. We just want to get our game published.
We're just going to get it out there.
Yeah.
Who cares what engine or what publisher has it?
Yeah.
But because like Assassin's Creed is locked behind that, and I think the PC version of Dishonored is locked behind that too. And I just hate the Ubisoft store. It
is. It's better now. So after it was weird. So Bethesda actually bought out Obsidian and all the kind of titles and stuff that they had. Mm-hmm. So Dishonored actually came with them. Well, since Microsoft bought out Bethesda and all the subsequent companies, it is now on the Xbox Game Pass. So you can get Dishonored 1 and 2 on there as well.
Well, maybe I should boot my Xbox 360 back up.
Don't do it. Pay the $15 on Xbox Live, on Xbox, not Xbox Live, online.
You can do it
on the PC. Yeah. I play it on my PC all the time. Mm-hmm. Looks gorgeous. Okay.
Oh, maybe I will do that.
And it's totally worth the $15 because you have an entire Bethesda catalog. You can play the new Fallout. You play out Fallout 4, which you can do 76, which is kind of okay. I like it. It's a nice little multiplayer around camp building thing. You have Doom. You have a ton of little indie games. You have Pillars of Eternity, Deadfire, the new one that just came out probably about a year and a half ago, that the Critical Role folks had a finger in. Mm-hmm. Matthew Mercer basically narrates the whole thing, along with who's the lady? She's blonde. She was in Avengers, and she was also in I want to say The Last of Us. She was another voice actor. She played the cleric last game, and now she's playing the big barbarian gal.
I know who you're talking about, but
I can't remember her name for the life of me. Ashley.
No.
I can't remember her name, but yeah, she's really nice. But she's actually narrates a bunch of it. I started playing that game. If you like good heavy like RPG, you can tell Matt Mercer was just like, "Let me help write the script," and I'm like, "Thank you, Jesus." So if anything, like I said, the man is very good at narrating. But anyways, so yeah, check it out if you want. Yeah. It's a nice little thing. If not, you can try mine and see if you like it. So. That's right. Maybe I will. So anyway, so eventually this game gets the green light after Ubisoft gets the publishing rights and things like that for it, and it is released in early 2013 for the Xbox, Windows, Xbox 360, Microsoft Windows, and PlayStation 3 at the time. So and that was one of the big kind of selling points I remember for them trying to do a game that they had creative control of from what I remember reading and watching, was that these new consoles had come out and they had higher fidelities, higher graphics and things like that. And they're like, hey, we can make a game that looks a lot more like
looks like
South Park. And it's not this 3D kind of looking thing, because they, like you said earlier, they had done a couple other ones, but most of them were just like either like tower defense games or like just kind of had lower level graphics. It just didn't have the feel
like the show.
But being that as it's made, the fact that they were able to get their creative control of this game, they just knocked it out of the ballpark from what I remember. So do you remember the basic story of the game that they were able, since they were allowed to go buck wild essentially?
It's a tortuous story, so to say the least.
Exactly.
It starts out with there's like a Lord of the Rings / Game of Thrones type struggle going on over the Stick of Truth, which is like the all-powerful artifact, and the kids are playing this game where there's two camps. There's like a camp of elves, and then there's a camp with Princess Kenny and the Wizard Cartman.
That's right.
and the player takes the spot of the quote unquote new kid. That's your name for the.
That's right.
game.
You're affectionately named douchebag.
Yes, that is your. The vast majority of the voice acting just calls you douchebag.
Mm-hmm. So it's great. Even if you so it's a little tidbit I remember. Even if you type in a name, they were like, "Okay, you are a douchebag," and it's like, "What?"
Chartman's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna call you douchebag."
That's like, you fucking dickheads. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, you're the new kid in town, and Cartman takes you in. You have to join his team, of course.
Yep, obviously.
And you have to pick your class first, if I remember right, and that was the first thing.
You have and so the classes they had the really interesting kind of thing. Like, well, I wouldn't say interesting, but it's.
Well, actually, no, I remember right. Before we get to that part, do you remember the character creation menu?
I'm trying to remember. Is it?
So you kind of have like your character creation, and they have a slider bar between whiteness and blackness.
Are you sure it's not in the second one?
That's in the second one. You're right.
I was just like, because the harder it's the difficulty level is the skin color, and I'm like, holy! I was like, holy shit!
I mean, it's true, but wow.
Yeah, for real. I was like, just right there. They're just like not pulling any punches, but yeah. So. On the second one, but so yeah, they set that up where you can kind of do the character control.
Classes.
Yeah,
I think you can be a mage, you can be
a warrior.
There's a rogue.
Oh, sorry. Here you go: fighter, thief, mage, and then of course the Jew, because why not? It's just like, and that's just like, oh, and it's funny. What was it? He calls it. If you pick the Jew, you get to learn the ancient art of
jujitsu.
That's right, because why not? It's just like I just wanted.
So I had to play as the Jew. I don't know about you.
I definitely did.
I feel like 90% of the people probably did.
To be fair, though, too, it's like I didn't really know what actual class it would fall under, but I was just like, this is funny. I'm like, I have to play this. So obviously, you get to pick your character at the initial start of things, and you kind of start. The whole thing is Cartman basically says, we have to find the stick of truth to help battle the elves. Essentially,
and it starts out with kind of pretty much straight out of the 3-episode special that the show did on this topic.
Yep.
You're doing some missions for them. You're like trying to go after the elves, and then the whole thing just spirals out of control.
Absolutely. In the end, it really doesn't revolve around the stick. They do let you get it at the very end, but it's just like, WTF, guys? Like,
well, it is about the stick, though. I mean, that's what Princess Kenny betrays the entire group to get.
Don't start with me. It was a little hard. I was like, how are you going to do me like that, Princess Kenny? How are you going to do me like that? It's just like Princess Kenny. Sorry, that's if you guys haven't watched the episode where it's Princess Kenny becomes a national Japanese icon, essentially, it's oh my god. I just this is a great show, but anyways,
she even has her own Magical Girl theme song and transformation.
That's right, she does. It's phenomenal. Anyways, so as they kind of go along, they go and find the stick of truth. They basically, let me read this real quick. So the elves attack Koopa Keep and take the stick. Cartman banishes Clyde from the group for failing to defend the stick from the elves. So that's originally they had the stick. With the help of Cartman's best warriors, Douchebag recovers the stick from Jimmy. That night, Douchebag and several town residents are abducted by aliens. So you can already tell that it's just going off, like you said, it's just like
going off the rails because you're getting to where you think, okay, the game's about over. This was fun.
Yeah,
it's like, and now there's aliens.
I played for about an hour and a half. I'm like, yeah, this is a little short. I'm like, but maybe it's just a short game. They're just getting their toes wet. No. You get abducted along with Randy Marsh, and there's a whole scene of you just sitting there. And they just anal probe the shit out of Randy, and he is just not even like phased by it anymore. And he's like, "So, what brings you up here today?" It's like, blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, So yeah, I'm gonna put this out here before we get too deep in this. If you're a child of significantly younger age than we are, big adult warning for the whole episode.
Or if you're just a decent human being in general.
Which I am not. I'll put that out there. James is my lifeline for being decent at this point.
Wow, I mean, I'm doing this episode with you too. So
okay, fine then. We're both awful people. We'll put it out there.
I mean, I will say at one point in the show, you have to perform an abortion on a homosexual man's butthole.
Yep.
To kill to disarm a nuclear weapon.
Just
throwing that out there.
My God, it's like I said, this whole game just spirals out of
There's an
control.
entire subplot involving underpants gnomes.
Oh my God, that was yes, I remember. God, I haven't played this game in like 5 years, and I'm
one
just
of the
like,
scenes with the underpants gnomes, you have to walk through your parents' bedroom while they're having sex.
yes. Not to mention the times where you go into Cartman's mom's bedroom and you find all this paraphernalia, and it's just like, what was it? And
I think actually the best weapon in the game you can find there, it's the giant purple vibrating dildo.
Yes, it is. And I was since I was watching the video, I remember of the gameplay. It was great. So they actually had the whole when you go in there, Butters starts talking to you. If you have Butters out as your friend, he goes, "Oh, this is where Cartman says his mom makes magic. She made lots of magic here last night. She made magic with 3 other guys. She made magic with her mouth. She made magic with her hands, and she's like, she made magic with her butt." And I'm like, "Oh fuck!"
Oh, no.
I was just like, "What is the key to it?" Like who puts that? Like who takes the time like to write up that dialogue? Talking about dialogue, do you remember the scene where Jimmy literally stutters for like a solid minute while you're trying to get information from him, and you're just like, just, and then I'm just like, oh my God, like they're doing this just to piss you off.
They are. They're quite deliberately.
Oh my God, it was just a great game overall, but just from the dialogue. So
sheer amount just douchebaggery there.
And so, like you said earlier, is you go through the town and you get to run into all these amazing characters that they've built through the whole season. You run into the like you said, we run into the aliens that you see in the very first episode. They throw them in there. You meet the goth kids. You meet who else is there? You meet Randy. You meet
government agents.
You meet the government agents. You can go to the pot store is later on. That's in the second one. Yeah. You meet Jimbo and what's his name?
The priest is there.
The priest is there. You meet all these people there, and it's you actually even fight the woodland critter friends.
Yes,
that have basically satanic roots, and
or is that one in the second game?
No, that's in the first one. They have, you run into the...
No, you run into them in the first one. The second game is whenever Santa helps you fight them.
That's right.
Yeah, they appear in both games.
It's so good. It's just phenomenal. So yeah, like I said, they shove so much lore. I hate to call it that, but I mean, essentially...
At one point, I think there was the government facility where they were pretending to build a Taco Bell.
Yes.
That contained a mysterious green substance that whenever it gets broken, starts a zombie plague.
Yes.
And the zombies somehow become Nazi zombies.
And so
and then you're in the abortion clinic learning how to perform an abortion on Randy, who is dressed up like a female hooker and for some reason wants an abortion.
Yes, and somehow he does.
And then there are Nazi zombie fetuses trying to kill you.
So
you start getting weapons that have like bonuses against Nazi zombie fetuses. It's just like, what in the world?
Just like,
what have I done?
You're making me. You're like, so you made them Nazis to try to make me feel better. So I'm killing fetuses. And I'm like, what is this? So really weird, like sidebar on that. Mm-hmm. They took actual audio of Hitler's like speeches and put it in the game.
Yeah, so you can hear it. It's like in the background of like every Nazi scene.
Yes, every time like the baby or the zombie does like a little sound bite, it's literally Hitler like doing a rally or a speech.
It's from that rally that they always show like that.
Yeah, and he's getting all really animated like he does in all of them. But yeah, and I was just like, when I learned that, I was like, they didn't fucking do that, did they? They did. They totally freaking did that.
Actually, Hitler's voice. Yes.
I was like, you guys are awful. Like, this is great though, because it's funny because like as you kind of like play this, you're just like, nothing is sacred for them to this game.
Absolutely nothing.
And it's like, if we can slap that M rating on there, you know what, we're gonna go with it.
The thing I just really love, I know we already kind of mentioned this, is like when you're getting to the end of this, there's a Nazi zombie plague, the government's come in and you're fighting the government too, and then you end up on the top of this tower. At the very end, you fight the final boss.
Yep.
And then the final boss is like, but wait, there's more.
There's always more, and it just keeps going.
And then it is revealed that Princess Kenny has orchestrated this entire series of events so she can claim the stick of truth.
Yep.
And then you have to fight Princess Kenny, who up until this point has been a character you can use on your team.
Yes, and just randomly, like, if you have them on your team, it's just like, oh, flips over, and it's just like, you're like, wait, what? It's like they just threw that in there, shoehorned it in there, just to like be like, we're gonna make this happen because we want to. And I'm like, you sons of bitches! I'm like, this is awful. But yeah, so like you said, that's kind of what it kind of ends up falling down to is like we had that big battle at the end with Kenny being the main bad guy, and you end up, finding the stick of truth, and you have to decide whether, no, they don't give you the choice. You end up throwing the stick into the pond. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just
it's too powerful.
It's too powerful. It's literally a twig.
Yeah, it's just a twig. But
okay.
It's time for the kids to play superhero next.
Exactly. And that's why I was just like, my God. So it was a great game overall. So game mechanic wise, it didn't really throw anything crazy new into the mix, but it was
No, it's pretty much like your basic turn-based RPG, like a la old school Square Final Fantasy type stuff.
Yeah.
You only have 2 party members instead of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, most of the fights are pretty easy if you know just the basics of that style of game. Pretty much just rock the Butters plus New Kid combination.
Pretty much.
Because Butters can heal.
That's right. He can heal, and he can turn into, what is it, like, is he turned into Dr. Chaos as his big
he
special?
Can turn into Professor Chaos.
Professor Chaos, that's what it was.
That's his special ability. I remember Cartman can cast Fireball by letting rip a giant fart.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. So that's one of the great things.
What does Stan do?
I don't remember all their abilities.
He had an ultimate as well. And Princess Kenny summons a plague of rats to eat her and the enemy together.
Yeah. So Kenny it's funny, she has to die, but she doesn't really like die, but it's funny. It's just one of those things. But yeah, they really kind of like push the envelope a little bit. Mostly they push the envelope with the content and not with like the game mechanics. I've noticed here, like you said, it's very basic RPG stuff. You got an inventory, you go around town, you have an open area level. Areas get opened up as you progress through the game and things like that. There are collectibles you can find throughout the game. I think there are Pokemon you can find in this game.
In this game, it's Pokemon. In the second game, it's collections of
Yowie, which
is hilarious. But
which, if you want to know what Yowie is, look, friends and family, you can. Yeah, or if you're an adult, go figure it out on your own. Yeah, still ask your parents. Because I'm pretty sure if I asked my dad what Yowie was, he'd be like, well, is that some goddamn Japanese stuff? And I'm like, yes, Dad, it is definitely Japanese. I'll leave it at that.
That's the appropriate response. But anyway.
So, but yeah, it's phenomenal from what I've gathered. And like I said, it was so well received from what I remember is that it actually pretty quickly started production on the second one.
Yeah, because the second one came out, I want to say just a year or two later.
Yeah,
but they obviously reused a lot of the assets for it because
absolutely,
they already had a town made and everything else.
Yeah, and they actually that one from what I've gathered was that was South Park Fractured But Whole, and that kind of delves more into the superhero genre. This is basically like straight up we like Lord of the Rings. Here's Lord of the Rings.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was coming out like right when like Game of Thrones was really big, and the Lord of the Rings movies were a bit more recent at that point, and so it was just a big thing.
Yeah, so there was
a whole sub quest where you had to go to Canada.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that real quick. That was great. Little tidbits before we get into the final stuff of it. So Canada, when you go to war with Canada essentially.
Yes,
and you have to
like invade Canada.
Invade Canada, and when you go there, it goes into a 16-bit style,
like a 16-bit like classic Final Fantasy style.
Absolutely,
thing.
And it's kind of like you
go to each town, there's an overworld map. And
hello, bud. Would you like to buy my wares? It's just like, what is this? And as you go through, it's kind of like a snub down to kind of like them. They've always made fun of like Canada because even in like the TV show, a nice comparison is when you look at the Canadian characters and the American characters are so much more animated, and the Canadian ones are so downgraded. They're like literally their face just goes up and down.
Their head is literally divided into 2 segments, and it rises up and down.
And that's kind of like them just kind of playing off that a little bit in the game. They literally like, we're not going to give this as good a graphics as the other game. It's the other part of the game.
mentioning Canada versus the regular area, classic episode where the Canadian devil and the American devil have a fight.
Oh, it's so good. So, what do you think about it, buddy? What do you think about it? They just kind of start fighting, and I'm like, this is good stuff. But yeah, they like I said, they throw all these amazing little tropes in there, and it's more of a, like I said, it's a more of a how far can they push the envelope throughout the whole game, and they do a great job.
They do, and that's something I was wondering is because I think part of the South Park comedy style is about pushing envelopes. It's about talking about topics that are not generally talked about. It pushes boundaries like a lot of good comedy does.
Yeah.
And I was worried about how that would translate to a game. It translates really well.
Yeah.
It's really like playing an episode of South Park.
I mean, really long episode of South Park.
The game mechanics themselves are pretty simple, and honestly, without the South Park veneer, it would probably be pretty boring.
Yeah.
But with it being 100% voice acted, it's such a loving recreation of the thing. If you like South Park, the show, you will love the game.
Absolutely.
If you don't like the show, then you're going to hate the game.
Exactly. And I like I said, I've been a fan for years.
Yeah,
and even with things that kind of irked me a little bit, and in real life, if they made fun of it in the show, I was still like, okay, that's funny. It's from a satirical viewpoint, and I get that.
Well, and that's one thing too. And yeah, I obviously don't agree with the South Park creators on a lot of their points that they make. There are lots of things they say and do which are frankly repugnant, but the fact that they make fun, they've done a really good job over the years of making fun of everyone.
Yeah.
Equally.
Yep.
Most of their humor does have a point.
Yes.
Some of it is just there to be terrible. But
those are the weeks where they're like, we're just going to throw out a bunch of fart jokes and dick jokes.
Like whenever Cartman eats Scott Timmerman's parents, there's
no rhyme or reason for it.
There's no higher criticism of culture going on.
Yes,
there.
Do you like that soup, Scott? Does that taste pretty good? Does it taste like your parents?
And Radiohead shows up and goes, "Oh man, this kid's pathetic. He's crying."
Just what is this? No reason behind it whatsoever. But yeah, it was like I said, this was just a kind of a great game, and it borders on the level of masterpiece a little bit. It's not quite there. It's definitely a very good game.
It's a very good game.
Yeah.
As a piece of art, it's very, very good.
Yes.
I say as a video game, it's bad, but as a piece of art, it's great.
Yeah,
like I said, if you like the South Park show, you'll love the game to death.
Absolutely.
You really should pick it up.
So, obviously, general reception of it. Let me put this. So, after all of that stuff coming up,
looks like Metacritic got it 85 out of 100.
Yeah. Okay.
Ubisoft has shipped 5 million copies as of 2016, and in the 2012 Game Critic Awards, it was named the best role-playing game, which is a generous assessment of its genre.
Probably not a lot came out that year, so let's leave it at that.
Well, there was a dearth of good RPGs for a long time, but
yeah,
they seem to be making a resurgence again recently.
I'm really excited because, like I said, between this coming out, I think this kind of gave people a little bit of hope, saying hey, you can make a decent RPG that has a very good story and has these basic RPG elements behind it, and it's still a good game, from what I've gathered. And I you kind of see that in a few other games that have come out, say, here's a good example, Moonlighter. That's got some pretty decent RPG elements to it.
Some RPG elements to it.
Or even
8 came out a few years ago.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That was a good one.
I'm trying to think of anything else that really has some decent RPG elements into it.
There was one on the Xbox store a little while back. I can't remember what it was called. It was pretty much a classic RPG.
But still, though, you can still have these very basic RPG elements, and kind of if you have a good setting, good content behind it, it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be well received, even if it kind of goes through a little bit of development hell, possibly, and moves on from there. But, and like I said, that's kind of why I like these games so much. So, but anyways, that is kind of our assessment of the game. James, let me ask you this. Would you recommend this to anybody?
I would recommend this to any adult who likes the South Park show.
Okay, we'll say that
it is a fun experience.
Yeah, and I would recommend this to anybody that, like you said, as well, between that age of probably I would say between like 17 and up. That's what I would classify at least, maybe with parents, if they're cool with that. I would recommend. That's kind of my thing. So I think that's going to be a little segment we're going to put on the end. Is like, would you recommend this to anybody?
We can start doing it. That'd be good.
It'd be kind of fun. I think that would be great. So, but yeah, so obviously this is a recommend. I'm going to give this a whopping, maybe we'll get a star system or
Ooh, we're going to be an out of 5 type of group or like an out of 10 type of group.
Oh my God. Maybe we're going to come up with our own system. What system do you think we should have like for rating?
I don't know. We'll give this one, I don't know, 5 farts out of 5.
Let's do 5 farts. Yeah, we'll do farts. So I'm going to give this a total of 3.89 farts out of 5.
It's not a silent but deadly. Maybe it's
it's definitely a wet one.
It's more of like it's like a wet one.
All right, guys.
This is a real underpants squelcher of a game.
Yeah, we're just packing all the humor in the end. I mean, it's just a full diaper of just humor. God, this was bad. I'm going to apologize to anyone that's made it this far in this episode that has to deal with this right now.
I think most people have given up already.
That's probably, But anyways, guys, I hope you liked the episode, James. Thank you for coming by and kind of sharing this game with me a little bit, especially since it's been almost a decade since this game's come out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen this game or haven't played it, go check it out on the Steam store, wherever it's at. It's relatively cheap now from what I've got. I think it's only like $10 maybe.
Yeah, and it goes on sale
regularly for way cheaper than like $6 or $7 even. So check it out, enjoy it, with your parents' permission if you're younger.
Mm-hmm. And if you like it, the sequel is even better.
It's even better, and it's roughly the same price now. It's been out for long enough. It's pretty good. So
Jared from Subway is one of the bosses in the second game.
That's right, he is. It's creepy to say the least. It's to say the least. So. But yeah, it gets even better. But anyways, guys, if you liked this episode, just hit us up on social media. Tell us you liked it. Hit that like and subscribe button, and give us a positive review or a negative review. If you think this is a dumb episode, let us know. If you like this episode, also let us know. If you want us to go over anything specific, like you say you want us to go over My Little Pony's Princess's Magic from 1980s, let us know. May not get there very quickly, but we will try.
We have no pride.
That's true. We are slaves to the system. So, James, I just want to say thanks for coming by today and going over this one. Guys, we're going to head out. All right. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye. If you're interested in keeping up to date with new episodes on our channel, add us on any of your favorite podcasting apps or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Seriously Pointless Conversations. If you have questions or concerns, please email us at seriouslypointlessconvo@gmail.com. We appreciate any feedback. Thank you for listening to our show.